Hello and welcome to another edition of the Ultra Confusion Google Hangout, which is actually not really Google hanging out because we're in the same place. I, of course, am your host Charlie, and I am joined by the in-person prolific hunter himself, Zealeus.
Yeah, what's up, Mr. Charlie?
Not a whole lot. Just, your usual gaming experience out there. Zealeus finally got to sample what I like to call the Ouya. Well, actually, I don't like it. Everyone calls it the Ouya. But, Zealeus, tell me, what did you think about the Ouya?
Well, I played a couple games. It almost strikes me as a console for developers who can't get games on a major console.
Interesting. Would you say, I think, would a better way of phrasing it for developers out there be that this is a console that caters more to independent developers than...
I think it's like an alternative channel to
Yeah.
get your games onto.
Yeah.
Okay, I will buy that argument.
Okay, there you go.
It just seems, it seems ripe for shovelware.
Yeah. I agree. Thankfully, I haven't seen all that much shovelware.
The hockey game is kind of terrible.
No, it's so much fun, though. It's so stupidly easy. It's fun.
It's kind of terrible.
But it's stupidly easy. It's fun.
The controllers in that game that we hate are absolutely terrible.
Controllers in the game that we hate. Oh, yes. Super Crate.
Like, the controls are just awful.
Well, I think the game is just way too fucking difficult for what it's trying to do. And
Now, I will say, what was the Space Invader games that I was playing?
the
Do you remember what it's called?
Radiant.
Yeah, Radiant. Okay, that's actually a pretty cool game. I did enjoy that game.
That, of course, is this game is actually Space Invaders meets Asteroids meets like cheesy 80s B movie script.
The script was very 80s. It was like something out of a bad Sam Max movie. Or I guess it's Say Campbell, but whatever.
It was awesome. Still.
No, it's actually a good game. If you're getting did you even have to pay for that game, or is it free to play? Remember?
I'm trying to think. It was like, I think it was like $2.99.
For $2.99, I'd say it was definitely worth it.
The beautiful thing about the Ouya is that it gives you a demo version of every single game that that's available on there, and then if you want to pay the extra money, which I've seen it free to about $15.99.
Okay.
So you're getting more of those bite-sized games, which if you've actually seen me talk at MomoCon, and if you're going to be there for AndoCon or MonsterCon or Siege, you're going to hear me talk about bite-sized games.
Which I may be in town for. Who knows?
Indeed. Anyways, so let's see here. What else do we got here? Well, of course, the Ouya has a shit ton of games, like Zealeus has stated. And I agree, there is the opportunity for a ton of shovelware to get on there. And yes, some games, I think it's open to interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the majority of the games that have kind of floated to the top because they redid the marketplace upon the actual retail release of the Ouya. The before release was kind of shitty.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards, I'm not saying they've made it perfect, but they've definitely made it better so that you can find the games, and the majority of the games that you're going to be finding are the ones that aren't total crap.
I guess the from the games I've seen so far, it basically looks like iOS games with a controller, like in terms of the quality.
Right. I mean, well, it really is Android games with a controller. I mean, that's really what an Ouya is.
So I mean, it's okay, but it's not something that I'm like, yeah, I'm getting it Ouya tomorrow.
Well, I mean, I think one of the very attractive things is simply the price tag for the console. It's $99.
Well, yeah, but what was it at Fry's? You could get an Xbox 360 for like $180 or something over the weekend.
That's true. Well, of course you're gonna have those deals, but any day you can
Xbox, you could get that with the controller, and it came with like 3 games or something. So you look at that.
Well, you're also looking at Microsoft doing one last run before they bring out their.
Oh yeah, it's the clearance. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, of course, it's a fire sale. They're trying to get rid of everything so they've got plenty of space to rent in the brick and mortar stores to put their Xbox Ones.
Yeah, I would concur with that.
Which, of course, well, I guess that brings up the topic of Zealeus at this current juncture. When or if you get a next generation console, which of the two consoles currently, the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, are you more leaning towards?
Right now, I'm leaning towards the Xbox One, and just solely on the basis that I have an Xbox 360 now. And I've enjoyed my 360 experience. I was lucky in that I never had a red ring of death or anything, insane happen to my Xbox. So far it's been a good console, and you know, at this point, I'm just gonna kind of wait till closer to November and see what happens. But so far, I've had good luck with Microsoft's product on the console, and it's kind of partly what I know. A part is I'll see kind of what big franchises come to the PlayStation that don't come to the Xbox. If you get more of the Uncharted and Heavy Rain type games that are coming to the PlayStation, not the Xbox, that may sway my opinion a little bit because I'm not really into the whole Gears of War and that stuff on the Xbox. I know I mentioned last week, but if I can play a true shoot 'em up game, I'm gonna play on a keyboard and mouse on my laptop or on my desktop. So at this point, I'm still pretty much undecided, really. Another big thing too that'll make a difference for me is what if any kind of DVR capabilities will the Xbox One have? It seems like right now there won't really be a whole lot from what it sounds like, but if it does have like an actual DVR kind of built into Xbox somehow, that would be a really big selling point for me.
Absolutely.
Because I would like having one device to kind of control everything would be pretty sweet, I have to say.
Well, I mean, I think the Xbox One is a huge step in the right direction to have that device that controls everything, but I don't think that it's going to be as fully encompassing as some of us would really like.
Exactly. And if it's not quite there,
right,
then what's really the point of getting it as that one media center device if you still can't do everything on it?
Right.
If at that point the PlayStation can really do everything that the Xbox, I mean, really I use it mostly for playing Netflix. Guess what? The PlayStation can play Netflix also.
True.
So from that standpoint, I'm not really losing any functionality of the 360. So I just, it's a good question.
Right. Well, I think you also bring up a very good point about the franchises that are going to be on one console and not the other. I think that there are still going to be those studios that are going to be strictly PlayStation or strictly Xbox, but I think that line is going to get a lot shakier as these two consoles truly come out. Personally, I am leaning more towards an Xbox One because of the past history of Sony products. And I'm not saying that Sony products have been bad, but they've been riddled with slight little issues here and there. What I mean by that is you have the PlayStation 3. The PlayStation 3 was supposed to come out the exact same time as the 360. And yet, at the last minute, Sony decided to do a complete controller redesign, which pushed it back, I think it was like 5 or 6 months. So that meant that the Xbox had no competition for basically half a year. And PlayStation, of course, was going to have to play catch-up. The other bonehead move that Sony executives made was the simple fact that they decided that Rumble was a last generation feature. So when you first got the the PlayStation 3, all the controllers did not have the Rumble feature in there. Now, of course, if you pick up a PlayStation today, it's got DualShock 2 in there, and there's Rumble, because apparently that last generation feature is now this current generation's feature and will probably be in the future generation. Because users, when they play consoles, I think they're now at the point where they kind of feel like they need that feedback.
I like that feedback, and especially a game like Mass Effect, where when you get shot, you kind of feel that rumble. It's just enough little tactile feedback to be actually a beneficial part of the game.
Absolutely.
It actually adds to help out as a gamer, I think.
I agree. And the other thing is it's a wonderful mechanism for games like Mass Effect or something, where maybe you don't see that someone's shooting you from off screen, and that little rumble, you will automatically go, shit, cover.
Yeah.
So you had that going for the PlayStation 3, and also there was a bunch of launch titles that either left and went to Xbox or got canceled simply because of the pushback of the console. Then you enter the realm of the disastrous handheld marketplace for Sony. The PSP was good, but the UMD format was really weird. And that whirring noise that you constantly heard was a big turnoff for a lot of people. They also came out with like 17 different versions of the PSP because they had to keep upgrading it to really make it the console the handheld they wanted. Then they had the disaster of the PSP Go, which was the digital only PSP, which if you had any PSP games, you had to repurchase every single one of them to play on the go.
Now, let me ask you a question, though.
Yes, sir.
Do you think any of this has to do with the fact that that Sony just has a broader gaming market? You know, it's not like Microsoft has the handheld device to totally screw up. You know, if you want to kind of stretch out with Microsoft, then we could look at something like a Windows Vista. Like, well, look what Microsoft did with Windows Vista. That was absolutely terrible. A lot of people aren't big on the Metro interface with the new Windows operating system.
Right.
So, if you kind of broaden the horizons of what Microsoft has and hasn't done, they've had their fair. You know, you had the huge Red Ring of Death issue.
Right.
Because they put the
video card right above the heatsink.
Yeah, which was like, really? What engineering student hopefully got fired for that one?
I think it was an intern.
So, Microsoft has had their share of like, I don't know about that.
But the thing is that Microsoft was able to recover with the Red Ring of Death. They, for I think like the first year, they basically said, send in your console, we'll give you a replacement for free. With the PSP Go, they basically said, oh shit, we fucked up, we're canceling this, we're discontinuing this product. Now you have the PS Vita. Now, fully admit, I don't own a PS Vita, nor do I own a PSP Go, simply because I thought, I understand the want to try to move to a digital-only format, but we, as a society, are not ready for a strictly digital-only format. And that's why, for the...
The Ouya.
Right. But when you grow up with having the physical copies of games for your Xbox or for your PlayStation, there's still going to be people out there who want that physical copy, probably because they want the collector's edition so they can have the huge bust of Master Chief that they can have in their man cave because their wife will shoot them in the face if they actually try to put that in public.
Are these the same people that have like caves on their or sticks in their lawn waving them at kids?
Perhaps. Anyways, yes, I agree. There are a ton of people out there who can go digital only, and the iPhone is a phenomenal.
And the Android and potentially the Ouya.
Right. Well, the Ouya is strictly digital only.
I think really the difference with the PS Vita is you still had people with the. I think what really it is people still. They want to be able to play their old PSP games on the Vita, and they can't.
Well, yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well,
I think it seems like to me that's really what I'm hearing.
But one of the biggest issues with the Vita is this promise that it's going to be you're going to have remote play. Okay, first of all, for those who, I don't know if it's still on the PlayStation 3 and the PSP, but once upon a time, you were able to play PS1 games on your PSP through your PlayStation 3.
Great idea.
Great idea. Terrible execution. The lag was insane, even if you're on the same network. I believe Zealeus calls it bathroom games. The only game that I could play was a turn-based strategy game, which was a tactics game.
Makes sense.
Called Eternal Eyes, which I got for $1.59 at a GameStop in Orlando. Best $1.59 I ever spent. But yeah, it was so fucking slow. You can't play any like real-time games because the lag was, you'd be dead before it would register a button click.
And I think for me, you asked earlier, what do I want, the PlayStation or the Xbox? And I think in some ways it's kind of almost wait till the console comes out to see, if the PS Vita, can you actually really play your PlayStation games without the lag? That is actually pretty damn sweet. If it works as advertised.
Right. Well, the question you have to ask is, okay, so I understand that the PS Vita comes in two different forms. You got the 3G form and then the Wi-Fi only.
There's no way you could do it with a 3G.
Right. That's one of my questions is what happens if I'm on a 3G only? So now we're talking Wi-Fi. Now are we going to run into the same bottleneck of trying to transfer high def graphics from the PlayStation 4 over to the Vita, or are you going to get a different form of the game that transfers over? Because the other thing is the control schemes could be different.
Gotcha.
I don't think that the controller completely maps directly from the Vita to the PlayStation 4 and vice versa.
Yeah, I'm definitely skeptical of that. You know, what happens if people, what if they have an old wireless router that only has, you know, a wireless?
Right.
It's still wireless, but
Right.
really a wireless alone isn't going to give you the throughput you need.
All right, fine. The B wireless.
Or whichever it is. But you know what I mean?
Right,
What
right.
happens to the old wireless systems? It's just going to be like, yeah, it's a definitely good question. You know, I really should look up to see what is the actual bandwidth required from HDMI for the 1080p, you know, to actually get it transmitted.
Right.
And can wireless actually transmit high def?
That's a very good question. I don't know.
I should know that, but I don't know for sure. I have no desire to transmit TV over wireless because lag.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the nature of wireless.
Well, I mean,
It's just how wireless works. And the big problem with wireless is, from a technological standpoint, is it's not. You know, if you're going over wires, then they can talk to each other at the same time.
Right.
Wireless, you can't. You send, you wait. You send, you wait.
Right.
And that's why it's, you know, gaming works over wireless, but that's sometimes where you get your big lag issues. And I could absolutely see the same thing happen with. I'm skeptical.
Yeah, I am too. Now I do understand that you know it seems like a phenomenal idea. I've played games on a Vita and they look gorgeous, but like you said, I don't know about the transmission. I you know, to be honest with you, I would not be surprised. Well, the thing that really surprised me was that Sony required that all games that don't require a third-party peripheral have to have the ability to play on the PS Vita. Now, what does that mean? And I don't think that, unless you're a developer who's currently developing, I don't know that anybody truly knows.
Like, for instance, I know I bring it up all the time,
Yep.
but Mass Effect,
Yep.
for the Xbox 360, you could use the Kinect. I didn't once use the Kinect with.
Absolutely.
You can use your commands or whatever. I didn't care.
Yep.
But I think that's a good example if you're going to apply that to the PlayStation. Is because technically, and I'm sure they could probably make it so it's the same thing with the PlayStation Move or whatever we're calling it. Where
It's called just a PlayStation Eye.
or a PlayStation Eye, which is kind of creepy, very NSA-ish.
Yep.
So it's kind of this idea of, you know, okay, you can make Mass Effect that uses your mobile, you know, motion detection device. Well, because it's using that peripheral, well, there you go.
Right. Well,
Does that count, or does it has to be a game that's like Kinect only?
right. Well, the interesting thing that I basically said in jest, and I'm wondering if anyone will actually do this, is that I would not be surprised if there's some companies out there who put like non-essential peripherals in the box so they can opt out of having the requirement of the Vita. It's like
a keychain.
No. It's got to be like some kind of adapter you put to your finger that reads your pulse like every hour or something, just to make sure you're still alive. Therefore, we can't do it to PS Vita. Boom. Now, I don't I don't know what the restrictions are on the peripherals and whatnot, but it would be very interesting to see.
I would agree.
So let's.
But regardless, the thing with me is I don't have a mobile gaming device. Even if it turns out to be super awesome, cool. Okay, I lied.
You did it to
Touche,
me. I did it right back at you.
Okay, let me rephrase this. I don't have a dedicated gaming
There
device.
you go.
Yes, I do use this for gaming. Thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome.
But I'm not going to buy a PS Vita. Like, I'm just not going to at this point. What reason would I have to buy one?
Right.
You know, I'm not going to go pop down, what is it, $300, $400 for a PS4, and then go out and buy a Vita. I don't know how much that cost.
I think it's like $270.
I'm just not going to. Even with the cost, I just don't. It doesn't really matter even the cost so much, I should say.
Yeah.
It's just I don't need another mobile gaming device. It's just there's no need for it, and I don't think there's really much for need in the marketplace.
Well, I agree. I think at this point, with the exception of Nintendo's gaming devices, because for some, well, I know it's Pokemon. As long as Pokemon stays on as a DS exclusive, you'll always have a Nintendo gaming device. But for everybody else, I mean, you really have to have the ability to, yes, the PSP technically, if you bought the camera attachment, you could do like some shoddy Skype once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
You can have movies and music on the little proprietary memory card.
Oh, good lord.
But really, you want this. You want a phone that also plays movies, also plays music, and has the ability to game. You want an all-in-one device.
Well, and you also have at the WWDC, Apple said that they are actually like releasing the SDK for the controller.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if your game, so basically it's standardized the control scheme for your iOS. So you used to have, what was it, the I don't know, it was the gimmicky control device that you could get for the iOS now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what it's called because nobody really bought it.
Right.
But now you're actually going to have a very refined and actually dedicated control scheme for games that want to have a control.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what? Now for your portable iPad or iPhone, you're actually going to be able to get a third-party controller,
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually going to work on multiple games because games that want a controller are going to actually have consistency across the board.
Okay.
And they're going to know, where your buttons are on your controller so it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as, I know we talk about, the iOS and how it has like, oh, it's the casual gamers, but there is that market, I think, for the hardcore gamers, and that could very well finally get some of those, ooh, wow games
Right.
on your iOS device.
Well,
Maybe. I think there's a chance.
there's the potential of doing that, but it's still going to require additional hardware. Even if if you have a third-party controller or Apple makes a controller,
Yeah,
a physical
that's
controller,
true.
you're still going to have to go buy that extra piece.
Good point.
Um,
But that's why I said hardcore gamers.
right. Well, I mean, there's been a push to put more games, not on the iPhone, but on the iPad.
Baldur's Gate.
Baldur's Gate's on there. Bastion, which is a phenomenal game for the Xbox Live Arcade, is now on iOS.
Good game indeed.
Indeed. Trying to think of the other game. There's a ton of games that are starting to come out that are iPad only, for the iOS mobile devices, and they're doing it right.
I think eventually the iOS will get there.
Yeah.
It might take another, who knows, 5-10 years.
Mhm.
I think eventually you are going to have those, AAA titles on your iOS device.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially, like, say, if the PSV ends up still being a total flop, and Sony's like, well, I guess that's it for the mobile gaming market. Well, now you're going to have those publishers.
Right.
Could really well turn this in.
Well, I think that as game expenses rise, you're going to want to try to put your product out on as many platforms as possible. And I think one of the platforms that people are seeing it's a very feasible platform. Maybe not give you the full version of the game, not the $60 game, but maybe like a $25 version of the game, depending on how Apple wants this to put the pricing. Or hell, you could probably put, depending on the sophistication of what needs to go on behind the scenes.
Now, do you think that on the iOS, do you think Apple's 30% gatekeeper fee, do you think that's a hurdle for some of these bigger titles being released on an iOS device?
No, because that gatekeeper fees on all consoles.
So that would make a difference? Okay.
No. And I'm sure that, if you're a big enough company and Apple wants you enough, though Apple's a pretty,
Apple doesn't really have to give concessions, let's be honest.
Yeah, so you're probably going to do the 30-70 split. But you also have to take into consideration that if you do go the Apple route, then you're doing a digital format, which means that you don't have to mess with the brick and mortar middleman in that equation.
That's very true.
You're taking out the monthly or weekly cost of putting each of you rent each spot that game is up there. So when you go to a GameStop and that game is in 4 different spots on one of the shelves, the company is renting those individual spots every single week or every single month. Then, of course, the retailer also, GameStop or Best Buy or whatever, they take a chunk of that profit as well and then send it to the publisher that then gets chopped again. The licensing fee has already been taken out of the equation. I think it's basically built into the amount of money that they're spending to create the game. So Microsoft gets their chunk like before the game even ships. But yeah.
The only thing I hope for is if we do get bigger titles on iOS that they forego the whole energy Zynga business model. For the love of God. Like,
Okay.
I don't mind microtransactions in video games.
Right.
It really doesn't bother anymore. It's just the whole energy thing just drives me insane.
Well, in my opinion, if I don't like that. I really don't like that.
You don't like what?
No, I don't like the fact that here I am spending a shit ton of money to try to further myself in the game, and yet you're still limiting me by the amount of actions I could take per.
I think it's a good way to put it because it's almost like a transitory solution. So,
Yeah.
like, if you're playing Oregon Trail and you buy an extra 20 turns, that's gone within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas, say, when I bought something in, say, Neverwinter MMO, I bought a horse.
Yep.
And, okay, yes, it was $30 for a horse, but that's there for all my characters throughout the entire game.
Yeah.
And maybe that's... I probably can never put my finger on it, but I think that's what drives me nuts about the energy business model. Is you're buying those energy points that, you know, to get far in the game you have to do, is it's such a... It's almost like an arcade.
Yeah.
You know, just put a little coin in there to play a little bit more of that time.
And to be honest with you, I think that that's the model they want to go with. Is they're trying to keep with that arcade model.
Look how the arcades turned out.
But right. Well, the thing is, the one thing that is slightly different is the fact that if you go on a real hot streak in an arcade, you could be playing a game for a long time.
Very true.
Whereas the Zynga games or whatever, they're still going to hold you by the cojones by going, well, you have 20 points, and when those 20 points are up, you got to wait 5 minutes for an additional point to pop.
Well, when you get to like the higher levels, you can use those 20 points in like one turn.
Absolutely.
And that's where it gets really annoying.
Now there is, I mean, there's a couple games on Facebook as one of the examples that has a shit ton of those games that force you with this point system. Mm-hmm. There are quite a few games out there who have the point system, but you only lose points upon losing that level.
Okay.
So you have like X amount of times that you could redo this level, and then you've got to wait for the time to pass so that you reaccumulate it, and of course you'll have to go back into the game.
It's not terrible.
It's not terrible, but I think it's a much better solution than, oh, you could click on 20 things in this Farmville simulation, and then you're gonna have to wait 8 minutes so you can click again, and then wait another 8 minutes and click again. Or you can give me $25, and I'll allow you to click 30 more times, and then you'll have to wait 8 minutes to click again. Mm-hmm.
I've never played those Facebook games.
I play, just for shits and giggles, I play Coasterville.
Oh yeah, you were obsessed with that one for a little while, weren't you?
I play it now once in a blue moon. I mean, I'll hop on there and go click, 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 click. Oh shit! Look, I can actually build a building for once. Whoops. Okay, and I'm done.
Nice.
That's the other thing. Okay, so I understand social game. You want people to be social on the game, but let's say that I am a recluse. And I'm having a hard time reconnecting with all my friends on Facebook. And I've made a couple of random friends on Facebook, whatever. But let's say that of those random friends, only like one of them plays games.
Okay.
Now, let's say that I'm playing a game. I can't remember the game off the top of my head, but we're just going to say some kind of bubble play game. You get like 20 levels in, and then it says, oh, look. You need additional help to get further in the game. Invite 3 of your friends so that you can continue your journey, or pay us money. Well, if I don't have 3 friends, you're forcing me to spend money, and I don't want to spend money, so drop the game. That just doesn't seem like a good retention model for me.
It's kind of funny how our entire business model expectation of video games has changed even in the last 5 years, though.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be the idea of okay, maybe you'd get a demo on a game, which even pretty much went by the wayside with the modern consoles.
Mm-hmm.
You're expecting to pay, $50, $60 for a game, maybe 10 or 20 if it's used.
Mm-hmm.
Or now it's like if it's on Facebook or iOS, if it's not free, it's almost like, oh my gosh, it's not free, dude. What's up with that?
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of funny, how that expectation of what you get out of a game is just so radically been turned on its head.
Well, I think another thing is that and we commented on this before, what is the right way and the wrong way to have microtransactions inside a game. There are games out there that yes, to really play the game, you're going to have to spend some real cash.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah. Like Neverwinter, I've spent money in the game, but I didn't have to. I mean, yeah,
Right.
I could be, guess what? I could be running around with less bags. I could be running around without a horse. But I'd still, for all intents and purposes, be just as functional.
Right.
Really, they're convenience items is really what it comes down to.
Right.
It's not like I bought the Slayer sort of Doom Plus 8 that gives me like an instant win.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, for my convenience, that's it, more than anything else. And so, in a game like that, I'm like, the prices for the game are probably a bit high, I think,
Mm-hmm.
but I still bought it anyways.
Right. Right. I just, to be honest with you, when I'm playing a game, I don't want to continuously be slapped in the face with, you should pay for this. You should pay for this. You should pay for this.
But then you also have the beam counters and the, advertisers, and that's what they want the developer to do.
Yeah.
Because they want to make sure that people know that they have to raise X amount of money in 3 months or they're all fired.
Yeah.
So they're going to do all that they can to make sure they get that money.
Yeah. I agree.
It's definitely a changing world as far as games go. That's the reality, which
Right.
makes our lives interesting.
Yes, it does. Well, I mean, as game journalists, it's always interesting to see what the newest model is, what tried and true models are still out there, what publishers you really want to throw through a brick wall because of some of the craziness that they throw at you.
Zynga.
Yeah, Zynga. Zynga being one. Though, interesting story about Zynga. Zynga just stole, or persuaded the president of Microsoft Interactive to leave Microsoft Interactive and become their new CEO over at
Interesting.
Zynga. They're doing this because they need a strong leadership. They need someone with a strong leadership background, and they believe that this guy is going to be able to right the ship of Zynga, which apparently has just been leaking money as of late. And of course, if you've been keeping up with the news, Zynga has closed a couple of their studios as of late, as of this year, simply because they're just not making as much money as possible. And I think one of the huge indicators or to why they're not making as much money is individuals like this gentleman right here, network admins, who are going, and Facebook is blocked.
Well, I wonder if part of it too is, it almost seemed like 2 or 3 years ago there was that it started kind of with Farmville, right?
Yep.
And there's this craze for these online social games and doing
Yep.
everything you can. It's almost kind of like once you've played those point-based turn games, they all kind of seem pretty similar. It's like you get your resources, you build something, you get some kind of resource out of that building, you refine it. Some kind of model in that regard. And I think after a while, people have got bored of those games. And, Zynga, they're looking like they had these cash cows. Well, eventually, there's probably not a whole lot of new user base incoming to that game.
Right.
And at some point,
Or even that genre of game.
Yep. And so at some point, people are going to stop playing the game. And, Zynga just doesn't strike me as a very, as a company who's going to come out with unique IPs that are going to make people be like, I want to play that game. It seems like more than anything else, Zynga just happened to basically catch fire at the right time. They just seem to have the right business model at the right time to make that quick, a lot of bucks to be granted.
Right.
But they seem to catch fire just at the right time, almost like Angry Birds. It was just the right game at the right time on the right platform and just boom, caught fire. And it seems like that's kind of passed by, and it's kind of like, and maybe that's why they bring in Microsoft, and Zynga's like, wow, we need to do something different here, because I don't think that business model of, if you're basing your entire company just off of these, point-based games, might have to expand your horizons a little. How many times can you rehash out Farmville? Well, then again, look how many times Sims did it, I guess. Sims did it enough times, and they worked, so...
Yeah. Well, I mean, The Sims did have a social online game for a little bit, and then they canceled that. Actually, they had Sims Online, and then they had the Sims Social Edition, which lasted for a little bit, and then...
Never played Sims, but it definitely seems like one of those games that people just kind of shut themselves in their room for hours upon hours upon hours upon hours on end to perfect the world.
It's very interesting because you're basically taking over your character's life and then making sure that they live right or whatever. For me personally, The Sims, I always got bored of the actual game, and so I would just use the cheat to get as much money as possible and just build ridiculous houses and then throw families in there and then never see them again.
Nice.
Because I'm like, you know what? I don't really care about, your job or your kids or whatever. You just have a sweet ass house that has all this cool shit. And
Sweet.
now on to the next lot. That's
It's
what I
like,
did.
I can't have a sweet house, but I'm going to give one to you.
I would, set different. I mean, it'd be interesting. I would build like the entire neighborhood, and then I would play as one person. I would actually play as a family for a little bit to see if the neighbors that I created acted the way I think they would with the shit that they have in their house. But yeah.
Yeah, I never played it, so I don't know.
Yeah. So, man, we're bouncing all over the place. My brain just like switched off. I forgot where we're at now.
Video games.
Video games. Yes, we play them.
Sometimes, when this time strikes.
Okay, so there is a game that I've been playing hardcore on my iOS device. It's called Scurvy Scallywags. It's by one of the geniuses behind, oh my gosh, Secret of Monkey Island. His name is Ron Gilbert. The beginning of Scurvy Scallywags, phenomenal game. The rest of the game, I want to beat myself over the head with my phone. It's the same fucking thing over and over and over again. Oh no, you've been slightly injured. Pick up 10 more bandages. Okay. When do I actually start advancing the story again? I don't know. I really don't know. I've been going... so basically, you're a pirate in a play. But in this play, you're going to several different islands, and there's going to be monsters that are going to come out at you, and you're going to have to kill them in order to complete the level. Well, the monsters' levels are going to continue to increase, so it's going to be harder and harder to kill them. You're going to have to like dance around the freaking puzzle board for a while before you can actually attack one. Okay. And upon attacking them, you're going to lose some of your attack power, and you're going to have to regain it. I'm okay with that as long as at the end of the island I get to battle a boss who's holding one of these sacred pirate shanty songs that unlock something else in the game. You're supposed to collect 16 of them to complete the game. Okay. So the first, I think it was like 5 islands, there was a shanty at the end of every single one.
Sweet.
I've now played like 20 islands, and I haven't seen one past 5.
Maybe they got drinking, like a summer shanty.
I don't know what it is, but dude, I am... I want to advance the game, and I feel like I've been treading water for hours. Because it takes a long-ass time in each one of these different puzzle places, simply because the enemy's attack power is just so monumentally high. The only way you could defeat an enemy is either you have equal or greater attack power. Now, of course, there is the ability to do a critical hit, which will kill anything, but the majority of the time you're going to get hit and lose a life. And I believe you have like 5 times you can be hit, and then after that you die.
Hey, what happens?
So, indeed.
Well, I played, based on Charlie's recommendation to me, I applied for the beta to Card Hunters. And I got into beta 2 days ago, so 2 days ago I played the game for a couple of hours, got to like level 3. Big time. Yes. The thing is normally games like that I kind of suck at.
Yeah.
Like, what was the game that Charlie tried getting me to play? Was Hero Academy, and I'm like, no, I don't like this game. So games like that I'm not normally a huge fan of, but so far, we'll see how long it lasts. Card Hunter.
Yeah, Card Hunter.
Thank you. So far, the game it's got my attention after about 2 hours of gameplay. So we'll kind of see what happens. I know Charlie described it last week pretty well, but you basically get your cards. Okay, here's one thing that does frustrate me about the game.
What?
Okay, so especially for like melee characters, you can attack from behind to basically ignore their armor. I never know which way an enemy's facing. Because it's like a card, so it doesn't...
Right.
I can never tell how to attack from the back.
There's a back side to the card, and there's the front side to the card.
Yeah, it's not very obvious to me.
I guess it depends on the enemy.
Maybe. So, like, I've tried attacking characters from the back to ignore their armor, and it just doesn't happen. I'm like, okay, I don't know, whatever.
Well, there's also certain armors out there that
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that's the only frustrating. I'm like, I can't attack from the back. I don't know how.
I spent money on that game, by the way.
To buy what?
Fuck, what did I buy? I don't know. I don't remember.
Did you buy the pizzas to become like a subscriber so you could get like an extra rare item?
Oh, yeah. I'm in the pizza club for, I think it's like 20 more days. And then,
yeah. Because if I remember right, it's basically so at the end of each kind of round, you get your treasure chest and you get one extra item of the highest rarity of items on the treasures.
Which, by the way, is not all that rare.
Yeah, I kind of figured. So
it's like most of it's like uncommon shit that I've already got or I continuously sell.
Yep. So obviously it's a way to try to get, I think, see like that, I think it's a great microtransaction model. Because, like, guess what? If you want to do that, well, maybe you just have to do the dungeon a couple extra times to get the same amount of loot as Charlie.
Right.
But if I don't want to pay money, I'm not really I don't feel pressured at all to actually spend money in the game.
Absolutely.
So as far as Card Hunter, how it's played out so far, I like that model. So I'm like, sweet. Now here's one question for you, because I haven't actually played in 2 days. So like after you finish like a dungeon or whatever, right? It's locked to you. Does that unlock again after so much time?
Yes, it does. It locks after 24 hours.
Okay.
Or unlocks after 24 hours.
That was kind of my guess, because like I'm level 2 and all I have are like level 3 dungeons now. I'm like,
no, 24 hours later you can redo any of those dungeons to gain better loot and to level up.
Yeah. So, and one thing I kind of experimented with, it'd be kind of interesting to see is, I don't know if you've tried, but you can have multiple of the same classes.
Yeah.
So have like 3 like dwarven warriors going in there and just going crazy. It would be kind of interesting to see. Or like, I would love to have like 3 wizards.
Dude, you wouldn't last a second.
They'd be constantly kiting around the world.
There's one level that I'm having the hardest time because I'm replaying one of the quests.
Yeah.
And I can't beat it. I'm taking way too much freaking damage. It probably doesn't help the fact that there's 3 skeletons that are kicking the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And have you ever run into a skeleton yet?
No.
Okay, well skeletons. How do I put this? Slashing damage and piercing damage do no damage to them. Yeah.
That's not cool.
Yeah.
So basically, better have a bludgeon weapon.
Yeah. So I gotta run around until I get a bludgeon card, and then run up to them and smack them, and hope they don't have a card that's gonna
block that.
Yeah.
What about your wizard though? Your wizard should be able to do magic damage against them.
Yes, that's true. But then, of course, I'm retarded, and I'll send my magic user to cast a spell on someone who's got a tough hide, which is immune to fire or electric damage.
Oh, that messes me off.
I know.
I forgot who it was. It's like, oh yeah.
Zombies. Motherfucking zombies.
Yeah.
Why did that thing darken? That was weird.
Did it go to sleep? No.
No.
Oh, hey Arlo.
Okay.
It's like, why can't I have a tough hide?
Yes. Or why can't I have the skeleton bones so that I can get...
Like, can you imagine a warrior with skeleton bones? That'd be glorious. Yes. I want a warrior that has skeleton bones.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to wrap up this this video as we have a special guest who's trying to get my attention right now. I'm coming, hold on.
Oh, he's coming down.
But we do want to thank you for tuning into this live broadcast and, of course, this video that we're doing at the same time. I will try to edit as quickly as possible and get it posted for everyone who, unfortunately, was unable to do this, watch this video because we did do it really quickly.
Yes.
So, next week we don't have one because I'm on vacation. I know. But we will get everything back on schedule shortly after. So, for myself, Charlie, and Zealeus, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you soon.
Remember, kids, keep on gaming in the free world.
Amen to that, brother.